Hey everyone, welcome to Creativity Connects with Mikki Wilson, a creative collective podcast where we go beyond the brand and dive into the real journeys of women in business. I'm Mikki, your host, a fellow team member at Creative Collective, and the founder of Dot Connector Consulting. As the Dot Connector, I bring women together. I create spaces for real connections and help build collaborative relationships that move your work forward. Creative Collective is a business support program that provides modern resources, strategy, and community for small businesses and creators. Through this podcast, we're highlighting the incredible women in the Creative Collective membership. We're sharing their relatable stories, the messy middles, and the meaningful moments that rarely get seen but deserve to be celebrated. Today, I'm talking with Nicole McClain, and I can't wait for you to hear her story. And because I know Nicole, the connections are real. This is my friend. I always tell people Nicole did my hair for high school prom, and it was like the best hairdo I ever had for a prom picture. And so you never know where the connections start. But look, I fell in love when you put that rose in the top of my updo. So let's go. So let me introduce my friend here. Nicole McClain is a multi-hyphenate powerhouse whose work lives at the intersection of education, community, and culture. From her role as career and education coordinator at Leap for Education to her leadership with the North Shore Juneteenth Association to her deep commitment to public service in Lynn, Nicole shows up wherever there's opportunity to uplift, empower, and connect. I'm so excited to get into the story behind her impact today. Nicole, welcome to the podcast.
My goodness, Mikki. What an awesome introduction that was. That was awesome, girl.
Thank you, girl.
You to be doing your thing. Awesome.
I be
love
watching
it.
from behind the scenes. You know
yes,
what I mean?
I love
see
it. I love who you are. I love who we are sitting here. Who knew, right?
Right.
Lynn Tech.
Right. That part. Right.
And here we are today. So, yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm proud of both of us.
I am
We
too.
are
But,
doing it.
I'm taking the moment
Right,
just
take
to
it
take
for a
that
moment.
in.
From then to now.
We have come so far.
We have.
Look, we're going to do a whole story on that story. So I love to get into the who, the how, the why behind all the things that make you get up every day and do what you do, because I know the scoop and the people are going to learn more about you, but the work you do is not easy, but it comes, I know, deep from your heart. You're a people-centric person. So let's dive in and talk about all these hats that you wear, right? Public servant, nonprofit founder, educator. But before all of that, can you tell us who Nicole is? What experiences or values shaped the woman behind all this work that you do?
Yeah, I think more than anything, I'm a creative soul. Like, I love to put things that are ideas into fruition. So I think more than anything, I like to bring my ideas to life, innovative in that way. And that's an underlying part of myself. But I'm also a Lynner, and I love my community. You know what I mean? So it's like I want to bring who I am as a creative, as a person who cares and wants to see my community grow to that, to that city, and ensure that, those resources, myself as a resource, is being used to uplift and to edify the residents of Lynn and let them know who they are. I mean, we're Lynners, both of us, Mikki, that we come from Lynn. People would be like, look at these powerful women. Where are they from? And we say Lynn, and it's like, really? Yes, really. So, I mean, I just feel like, that's one of the other underlying foundations of who I am as a Lynner, a person who cares about that community. And then I'm a mom, raised my son in Lynn. I'm a grandmother now. I mean, he moved to Springfield, but, I've always been public service. I always realized how important that is, whether it was cosmetology, whether it was early education, being a veteran, all of the things that I do really center amplifying other people and pouring into other people, and then by doing that, pouring into myself too. Like makes myself proud looking in the mirror like, okay, you've done this and you've accomplished this for other people. So I think I'm like you said, people centered. I'm a learner. I'm a creative in different ways than being a painter. I'm not that kind of creative, but yeah.
Yeah, you're creative with the ideas. I love what you said early on. Implementation and execution in life and business
Right.
are the harder parts of what we do, right? It's easy to be inspired and have the creative ideas, but to really get your feet on the ground
Right.
and activate and get other people excited about knowing whether it's their rights, to being more informed about resources, connecting them to relationships. Short story here. Nicole emailed me one day and says, "Mikki, would you like to do some marketing at the time it's now Franklin Cummings Tech, but it was the Ben Franklin Institute of Technology." And I said, "Sure." I'm thinking it's a workshop in my mind. You all,
No, she was
full-fledged
supposed
job
to
interview.
facilitate the workshop. She was
Full-fledged
being a
job interview
professor.
to being a teacher for high school public schools.
That's
But
right.
that is a testament to like your power of connection
right.
and intention.
That's right.
And I have to tell you, I did that for I think 2 years.
Oh my goodness, so long.
2 semesters
Oh,
each,
that's
like 2 to 3.
awesome.
It was so hard to leave. And so I understand, as somebody that is passionate about education, it's so hard to walk away from things and kind of repivot them into shaping new things. So I appreciate you for that opportunity because it
Yeah.
expanded my idea for how I can show up for youth development, youth in general, entrepreneurship, and all the things. But girl,
You inspired some young people.
I
Yes. I
did.
didn't realize you thought it was a workshop.
You know what?
Yeah.
Because you know me, I half read the email sometimes. So
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, sure, yeah, I'll do this. It was good. I trust you. You're a
Right.
connector. I said, I'll go
Absolutely.
into whatever it is. And then I laughed and I was like, am I a teacher now?
Yes, you are.
Yep. So I can add that to the resume.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, oh, this is going to be great for her resume.
Look it. So look, I tell everybody I may be the dot connector, but
Yes.
I know a connector. So I love this. I love how you integrate ideas, activation, the implementation of it all, and really keep your feet on the ground. So let's dive into a little bit of the how, right? How did your path lead you into this kind of community-centered, youth-focused work? Was there a moment of influence, a moment or influence that shifted your focus towards service and leadership?
I don't know. I think it was innate. I always feel good when I was doing cosmetology,
Mhm.
doing hair for someone and seeing them smile and seeing them be more confident in themselves because of they just look better. You know
Yep.
what I mean? So and I started that when I was 16 years old, 17 years old doing hair. And from there, it was like, I want to pour into people.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And I want to make a difference. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And I felt like that's what I was doing. When I was doing hair, I was making a difference. And then when I came back from my first deployment to Iraq,
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, it just wasn't feeding me anymore. I
Mm.
just, whatever, I changed a little bit, I think. You know what I mean? My family would tell me that as well. So I began teaching my son, focusing more on him. And that led me to early education. And I think being in the world, being in America and working jobs, you find out that as a Black woman, things are kind of hard. You
Mm.
know what I mean? Like things get murky where you don't understand, oh, I'm not being promoted, or
Mm.
this felt weird. This interaction between people felt weird. And that's what led me to say, I kind of want to be more of an entrepreneur than an employee of someone's. You know what I mean? I feel like being the leader of an organization or a company, that's kind of one of the pivots that happened to me internally, where I felt like as a Black woman, I wasn't receiving the um, the acknowledgement that I think I deserved at the time.
Yep.
I felt like, yeah, I'm great at what I'm doing, and I'm doing it as just as great as this other person, but for some reason um, I'm being overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened a lot of times. It happened when I was in the military, when I was in the early education field. Like, it just kept happening
Mm-hmm.
to the point where it was like, okay, maybe you need to be in the leadership position because you're not going to treat people. You know what I mean? You're going to really be merit based. If
Yep.
they're great, you're going to make them great. If you see something, a spark in them, you're going to, develop that spark and not be threatened by it. You know
Right.
what I mean? So like maybe, that's what you need to be doing. And I think that's one of my other foundations is being a Black woman. It really does navigate me through life. You know what I mean? And seeing the lens of being closest to the pain, you kind of don't want anybody else to feel it. So,
Being closest to the pain, you don't want anybody
Yeah.
else to feel it. That hits so deep because even in the work that I do, I think this is how we all show up. I'm really just trying to prevent people from making the same missteps that that I may have made,
Yep.
or collapsing their timeline to success because. My dad used to have a saying, like, a hard head makes a soft behind. So I tell
Right.
everybody, like, I'm the hard head for you. Like, learn from my lessons. Like, at
Yeah.
least listen if you're not going to apply, just so that you know that I tried to
Right.
prevent you. But, you bring up, I think, something that's important that we don't talk about enough. And this is a mindset that I instilled. Hopefully it resonated and it sticks for the future because all the students are seeds, right? But I think in education, we should really look at mindset, right?
Mhm.
And the way I bring this kind of just into us being life is the business for me. I tell everybody if I can
Right.
handle life, building a business is infinitely easier. But there's kind of a topic that is starting to come to the surface that we're going to see more of, and I think this is this entrepreneur mindset
Mhm.
versus the employee mindset. And I'm going to go back to what you said as being a Black woman in these career positions and feeling and being overlooked and acknowledged, and like, what is that, right? And so I've had some Black women who have recently gone back into the career place, but they have businesses now. And they're not giving up the businesses because I think a great part of entrepreneurship, if it is meant for you, is that you do find a sense of freedom
Mhm.
that you just seem to not be able to find in that 9 to 5 career path. But as I watch these women go back into career positions, being business owners with that entrepreneur mindset, they advocate for themselves now. They're like,
Better.
"Oh no, I'm
Yeah.
just doing see this piece of paper that you gave me? Like this is
This is what I'm
it.
doing.
I'm here for a paycheck." And I'm just like, I wish I had that mindset
Then.
when I started as an
That's
employee,
right.
because I think it's hard for people to advocate for themselves when they feel like they are lucky that they have this position, or like, I got here, my dad used to say this too, not make waves,
Waves. Right.
And so for entrepreneurs out there, and because I know the economy and the environment, even if you have to go back into a position, that mindset shift, being the CEO of your life, being the CEO of the business, we're going to hear about entrepreneurship because we're looking for innovation from
Right.
people, our young people, everybody, but to really take ownership of that greatness, that value that we have, but also have the voice to not be overlooked. So, you are
Right.
you are dropping the gems today. You are creating the foundation. I love this. The important part of what we do, and we were chatting about this beforehand, is like there's something that makes us wake up every day and do the things we do, especially on the really hard days, the really busy days, and at the end of the day when you're tired and you have to go to that next event or do those follow-ups or take that phone call. You too, because again, my
Or go
girl
to
is
that
a
meeting, 'cause
multi
Lord knows.
hyphenate over here. We got veteran again.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give a shout out because you are the city councilor for Lynn, but the first Black woman city councilor too. So trust, a lot of work comes with that. The mom, the grandma, all these things, but there's something down there that makes you get up and continue to show up, not only for yourself, but for other people. So, why does this work matter to you personally? And again, not just the programs, the events, but the impact you're hoping to leave behind.
Yeah. To me, what wakes me up every morning is legacy, honestly. I come from a very poor family, right? My mom was a single mom. She didn't have very much education. Like, I want to improve upon the life that I grew up having. Like, food stamps and, you know, lights out, things like that. Like, which never happened for my child, right? But
Mhm.
but that was my reality. So I think that that's important to me more than anything is to make sure that I'm setting the future McClain family or Lane family. My maiden name is Lane, but McClain family.
I like that you got the
Yeah,
rhyming though. You're like, if I'm gonna make the shift, I'm gonna go to a
Lane
parallel lane.
McClain. So that, those the people that come after me can say, "Oh, we're standing on the shoulders of so and so." You know what I mean? Like we now stand on the shoulder of giants. Who knows how what it took for my mom to be
Mm.
able to provide for me and make sure that I'm able to sit here with you and have this conversation, educated, right?
Mhm.
Master's degree from Boston College. You know what I mean? She
Mhm.
never even went to high school. You know
Right.
what I mean? So that
Right.
is what wakes me up in the morning, to make sure that there is constant progression. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
not just for my family, because I'm making an impact on other people's lives as well. So,
Yep.
through that, there's constant progression in all kinds of ways. I mean, even in these times right now, it just made me think of all the craziness that's happening,
Mhm.
and all of the federal issues that we're having right now, and how those tentacles, we don't even know the consequences,
Mhm.
right, that are going to be the results of what is happening right now. We don't know every single life or, you know, law that's going to create chaos. But when you're trying to leave a legacy, when you're trying to do things positively, you also don't know how
Mhm.
many great things you've done. You know what I mean? Because you're not sure. I stood in a classroom today at St. Mary's and just talked about keeping Lynn clean. And
Mm.
you know what I mean? But you don't know, I don't know any of those children. So you never know. Some of them might look back and say, wow, this, woman who was a leader in our city came and talked about this, and it really did spark something in me. And that's
Mm.
a result that you'll never really see. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Look, I just had a vision. We're going to be sitting somewhere when we're like 85 years old and somebody's going to come up to us like, I remember when you spoke in the classroom. I remember that podcast.
Exactly.
And I'm going to sit there and you're going to just have to wipe the tears off my
I'm
face because, I
serious.
get emotional at this point in life. But yeah, it really is that planting of the seeds. I love
Right.
that you mentioned like the positivity, right? There's a lot
Right.
of chaos out there right now, but planting those positive seeds like that does something going forward. What does that
It does.
grow in what can sometimes feel like the darkness uh
Mhm.
of right now? So I love how you just weave everything together, even when you talk about being poor and growing up poor. What a relatable story, because I actually think that touches more people
Right.
than we know. We all are out here trying to, attain more or build towards that thing. But legacy really starts at your roots,
That's
right?
right.
And how you go forward. So the planting of the seeds, the roots, and then watering that. But again, when you touch on that, the fear, having like no lights, the food, the things
Yes.
like that, these are real things people are struggling with right
Currently.
now, currently. And I think
Exactly.
all of us, because
Right.
even if you have enough, you notice that you did not have as much as you did before.
I'm serious.
And if you barely had enough, you are really being creative right now. And I'll tell you what I told somebody was trying to bait me into a political discussion. It was an Uber driver, God bless his soul. But because he wanted my viewpoint, but I could tell the angle he was going in. I was like, sir, not today. We don't do these things. My father always told me, like, politics and religion are two things that you want to trust the person you're having
the conversation
with.
That's
because
right.
at least you can have a place to agree to disagree. But from the conversation we're having, and that we went to the same high school, so
That's right.
vocational school. So this was a high level conversation. We're talking about efficiency, vocation, how this shows up. But he said, it sounds like you might agree with some of the decisions that the administration's making. Insert eyebrow raise. I said, no, sir. I said, but I will say this, because I find that myself being at the intersection of race, being biracial, all these things, I'm a great diplomat. I am a diplomatic dot connector. And I said, sir, regardless of administrations, because those come and go, and I feel like that's subjective, I said, I'm a business person. And what I know to be true is this. When you have a lot of changes and threats in your external environment, that brings up challenges, but it also brings up opportunity. So I'm a fan of disruption. I'm a disruptive dot connector as well. But the disruption brings out these challenges and these opportunities that we couldn't see before. And so I said, I think our job really is to address the challenges head on, and then figure out how we can work together.
That is it.
To create more opportunities so we can move forward productively and in a positive way.
Right.
Despite
our differences.
Despite the differences. Well, that was the, dot, right? And so he turned around and he said, that is the best answer I've ever heard. And I said, thank you. And I kindly exited the Uber on that note. But
an applause thing
in business, I've learned there's no, we try to separate the emotion from business, because that is just the language of business. But I love all the seeds that you planted here, because hard times allow us to bloom that creativity that lives, I think, in all of our souls. Right? And come up with ideas. And the message I really heard from you today is, don't be afraid to go out there and implement the ideas, activate people, execute, and just create impact, however that looks like for you.
And I loved it. I heard something from Ava DuVernay early this morning, because I have a hard time sleeping, unfortunately. But she was talking about how she'll never have the budget that somebody else might have, and she'll never be able to, attain that level of funding for her movies. But that doesn't mean she's not going to continue to make movies. You know what I mean? So she was like, I'm still going to go out and put what I need to put out into the world in the way that I can. I'm going to just do it with what I have, because I do have things,
Yep.
She was talking about how old she was when she started making movies, and how people were 15 years younger or 10 years younger than her at Sundance. And she was like, they had their educations. She never went to film school. So she was talking about how they had their educations and they've gone to film school, but she had what she had, which was experience. So I think making sure you have what you have and you own that and you do it, or whatever it is that you want to do, you do it with what you have. You know what I mean? Don't think that you have to have what everybody else has to make a difference.
Right.
You have what you have, so go forward with that. You know what I mean? And other things will come. That there is no lie behind that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right there. I'm gonna leave that right there. That's a whole testament.
Yeah.
This is church today. If you didn't notice, we are giving all the testimonies, and I'm gonna wrap it up on this note, because you know me. Yeah. Well, we've talked about connections, but you know me. I am always asking people, like, okay, let's take a pause. What does support look like for you right now? And then I always get the eyes that look back at me like, are you asking me? Right? So my question is, what kinds of connections or support would feel most meaningful to you right now to help you keep doing this work in a way that's sustainable and impactful?
Well, I will say we have our tea coming up on May 3rd. Is that Saturday? That's this Saturday coming. We're going to be at the Hawthorne Hotel. So if you want to come down, we still got space available. Come on down to the Hawthorne Hotel and come to our hats, heels, bow ties, and blazers tea if you're available. I would say, promoting each other. Cross promotion is amazing. So, I mean, if you have something that's going on that you want me to help you with, if I have something going on that you can help me with, let's do that back and forth as much as we can. I know we're both very busy. And yeah, let's just amplify each other's voices as much as we can because we're doing some great things out here, and I think people need to know.
All the things.
Yeah.
And I'm going to include all the information in the show notes, but I'm going to give you a couple of shout outs of my own because you mentioned the hats, heels. Is it hats, heels? You added bow ties and blazers this year.
I added that
too,
this year.
right?
Yeah, we said we want the men to come too. So we want men to feel comfortable or whomever. You know what I mean? Genderless event. So we want people to feel comfortable with whatever they want to wear. So it was hats and heels, but now it's hats, heels, bow ties, and blazers because we want to make sure people know whatever attire is acceptable.
I love this. And I know you do so many more events too. So I'm going to definitely tell people to follow North Shore Juneteenth Association because the support I hear and know you need are people showing up for the culture, for the community, and in collaboration, right? Because when we support each other's events, we're all rising
more impactful
together
right?
too. So, we're going to shine the spotlight on you.
You can also follow my political page on Instagram. I'm at Councilwoman McClain on Instagram, and I'm at N for Lynn on Facebook. And that's FORN for Lynn.
We got you. We're putting
Facebook.
all the links, all the things. Because again, I said
check
she's
us
a
out.
multi-hyphenate, right? So there are going to be
Yeah.
multiple ways for you to connect with my girl, Nicole McClain. Nicole, before I close out, any parting words for us?
No, just thank you, Mikki. This was wonderful, and I enjoyed having this conversation with you. Appreciate it.
Me too. And don't worry, I'm going to make more. I'm going to create space for us to spend
Let's
time
do
together
it.
because I know we are busy.
Yes.
But I appreciate you being here today too. I love this
please
conversation.
let me know about your next group of women. I enjoy doing those.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yes, I got you because I be connecting the dots,
That's
y'all.
right.
So I'm going to say that's it for today's episode of Creativity Connects with Mikki Wilson. A huge thank you to my friend Nicole McClain for sharing not just what she does, but truly who she is. And reminding us that the real story is always deeper than the brand or the business. So this podcast was brought to you by Creative Collective, a business support program providing modern resources, strategy, and connection for small businesses and creators, because building something meaningful doesn't mean that you should be doing it alone. If you want to learn more about Nicole and her work, check out the show notes for those links and ways to connect. And if something in today's conversation resonated with you, I encourage you to share it with someone who needs to hear it. These stories are meant to move and connect us all. So until next time, keep building, keep connecting, and keep showing up as you are. I'm Mikki Wilson, your favorite dot connector, and this is Creativity Connects.